Hey, I'm Hannah. I'm the founder and creator of Calm Births Courses. Welcome. So you're here, you're pregnant, and now you might be thinking, eek, I've actually got to give birth. Well, have no fear, my lovely. With over 15 years experience in the birthing world, firstly as a midwife, as a hypnobirthing teacher, as a hypnotherapist, and as a mum of 3 myself, I have got you covered. My course has been really carefully designed to ensure that both you and your birth partner have all of the best information available to leave you both feeling fully equipped, calm, and positive about your labour and birth. Each module covers a different part of the process. We look at practical tips and techniques. We look at hypnotherapy mindset tricks. We look at some lovely birth stories for inspiration, and a whole toolkit of tools and techniques for you to enter into the process of labour and birth with. If you put in the homework each week, you will achieve the birth of your dreams ultimately. You're beginning on a journey here, and if you put in the work, you will get the rewards, I promise you. So without further ado, let's crack on with module 1. How did we get here? Now, the first things first, what I'd like to do is explore where you are right now, how you feel right now about the process of labour and birth and what's going on for you. Now, in a minute, what I want you to do is pause this, and I want you to grab a pen and paper or print out your workbook. You will see that there is a space designed for you to do this in. And what I want you to do is free flow write. When you think about labour and birth, what automatically pops into your head? I don't want you to analyse what you're writing. I don't want you to judge yourself for what comes out. I want you to just have a brain dump and just write it all down. So you think about labour and birth, what comes into your head. Pause me right now and go and do that. Okay, great, you've done that. We will come back to that later, so put that to one side, keep hold of it, keep it safe until the end of the course, and we'll come back to it. Now, something that I want you to begin to really absorb is that the process of labour and birth are normal, natural events for normal, healthy women. I want that to really start to sink in for you. Just let it sit with you for a moment. Labour and birth are normal, natural events for normal, healthy women. Now, birth isn't an illness. It's not something for you just to get through. It's not something that's done to you or for you. It is just something that a woman does. Now, this is a bit shocking to say right off the bat, but it usually has quite a great impact on people when I tell them this. And that is this. If you happened to be unconscious and you were fully term, your baby was ready to come, your baby was in the optimum position, and your body and your baby decided that it was time for your baby to arrive, your body would birth your baby. You're unconscious, say you're in a coma. I know it's really morbid, but just imagine that, or you're asleep, think of it that way. Your body and your baby go, right, it's time, and your body will push out your baby without you even being present. Now, that is how normal the process is. So in this module, what we're going to do is find out why it isn't that easy for most of us. What happens? Where do we mess it up? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip it all bare, and I'm going to go right back to basics, and I'm going to unlearn everything that we've learned over the years. That might be from previous birth experiences, that might be from stuff that you've seen or heard, and I'm going to tell you how it actually is and how it actually can be for you, and how it can be that simple for you. So let's get going. So we're going to get into the sciencey bit now. Now, during pregnancy, we release a hormone called oxytocin. This is also known as the hormone of love. So it's a hormone that we release when we feel loved, we feel safe, we feel comfortable, when we're cuddling with loved ones, and so on. And when we're pregnant, we build up a good store of this, and we also become more receptive to it. So during the course of the 9 or 10 months that we're pregnant, that oxytocin builds and builds and builds. Now, when your body and your baby decide that they're ready, some point, hopefully between 37 and 42 weeks, your due time, that oxytocin then will send a message to your uterus. It will send a message to the muscles in your uterus as a call to action. Now, the muscles in your uterus sit like this. So you have a layer like this and a layer like this, and one overlaps the other. And what happens is these muscles come down and pull these muscles up and release again. And with each surge of oxytocin that you have, this happens. Now, what's happening when these muscles are being released and pulled upwards is that your cervix, which is beneath, is allowed to soften, to shorten, and then to begin to open or dilate. And what happens is the cervix then will open to approximately 10 centimeters. Now, because nature is amazing, that is the approximate diameter of your baby's head. Now, there's a really important side note here. And what I want you to understand is that your baby's head is actually the widest diameter that is going to pass through the birth canal. And I know you're thinking, well, what about the shoulders? Now, what happens very simply, and I'll demonstrate on my own head, is if the baby's in an optimum, what they call cephalic position, so it's head down, facing the right way, this bit of its head is born first, facing, if you're sitting or laying upright, the baby's head will come facing down. This bit will come first, it's born, it's born, it's born, it comes, it's facing down, the head is born, and then it, what they call restitutes. So you can actually see this happen. The baby's head will turn on the perineum. And as it's turning, what's happening is its shoulders are twisting so that they can then come out one and then two. So that it's coming out one by one. So it's coming out, doing that, 1, 2. So this is the widest diameter. The shoulders come out one by one, and then the rest of the body follows. So that magical 10 centimeters is absolutely perfect. Now, whilst the cervix is doing its thing, the baby is also helping. The baby is starting to nudge its way down. And eventually the baby will come down lower, lower, lower until it hits a trigger point. And it hits nerves in your body, which create the natural expulsive reflex. And the only way for me to describe this, for it to make sense, is as if you were having a bowel movement, as if you were having a poo. So imagine if you had, for example, if you had an upset tummy, and when you need to go to the bathroom, you need to go to the bathroom, that feeling, that expulsive feeling. So the baby is hitting those same nerves. So if your body is completely relaxed and that expulsive feeling can happen normally and naturally, that is why the body can push the baby out just like that. Now, there's other amazing things going on, like your hormones are softening the baby's joints and ligaments. So all of its joints and ligaments become more flexible and more soft in order for it to pass through the birth canal more easily. What's also happening is, remember that this is the widest diameter. Even this is made smaller because these two plates of skull overlap on the baby's head, so that it makes an even narrower diameter for you. There is so much going on to enable this process to be easy, normal and comfortable. And one last thing that's happening is that in the normal process, again in a relaxed, comfortable body, with that release of oxytocin comes releases of endorphins, and they match each other. So as the oxytocin builds up, and so the intensity of the surges build up, so does your level of endorphins. Now, what a lot of people don't know about endorphins is, yes, they are the feel-good hormone that are released when you are running or having any physical activity. You feel great afterwards, you have a buzz afterwards, that's your endorphins. They're also a natural pain reliever. So the body is very, very clever, it knows what it's doing. And it releases the correct amount of endorphins to enable the process to be smooth and comfortable for you the whole way along. So why isn't it that easy? It's actually really quite simple. And if you think about it, what happens from as soon as you announce that you're pregnant, or as soon as people see that you've got a bump, or birth partners tell people that their partner is pregnant, what happens is all the stories come out. And, you know, well-meaning people choose to share their birth experiences with you, and these aren't always positive. Now, I want you to just have a think right now about all the stories that you've been told since you've been pregnant. Have they all been positive? Or have some of them actually been quite negative, quite dramatic, quite scary? I'm guessing there will be quite a few horror stories thrown in there. If you're lucky, people will have been considerate and only shared their positive stories with you. If that's the case, that's brilliant, but that isn't the case for most people. Now, we are also filled with utter rubbish in the media. Any birth that you ever see on telly, on any soap opera, or so-called fly-on-the-wall documentaries about birth are nonsensical. I'm not allowed to watch them anymore in my house because I shout at the telly because they're so silly. Now, those fly-on-the-wall documentaries particularly I want to address because don't watch them. Now, the reason being that, yes, they are real births that are being shown. However, what you're not seeing is the hundreds and thousands of other births that are happening in those hospitals, which are just straightforward, normal vaginal births with no drama, no swearing at the husband, no whatever goes on. And because actually they don't make as exciting telly. And these programs are edited very, very heavily for exciting viewing. So you're only going to see the dramatic births and births when things go wrong. So you are being fed this picture of birth that isn't the reality or the normality. Now, so if you combine these things, these stories that we get told and that we actually grow up with, you grow up overhearing sisters, aunties, neighbours, just women at the bus stop chatting about birth. Women always do it when they get together, and they'll always talk about, oh, did you hear about Doris down the road? Oh, she had an awful time. Her baby was 15 pounds and she was in labour for 5 weeks and blah, 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 blah. Mother and baby groups are the worst for this. If you have children already, you'll know what I'm talking about. Now, what's happening is that over the course of our lives, all of this stuff combined is just dripping into our subconscious mind. Now, if you imagine that your mind looks like an iceberg, and you have a picture of this in your workbook for visualization. Now, if you think about the tip of the iceberg that is above the surface, that's your conscious mind, okay? So that is all your day-to-day stuff. Stuff that you've got to do for work today, people's birthdays this week, so on and so forth. Now, the huge part of the iceberg that's beneath the surface is your subconscious mind. Now, in your subconscious mind, believe it or not, is every single feeling, thought, emotion, sight, sound, smell that you've ever encountered. It's all there. We can't easily access it because our brain would explode. It's too much stuff, but it is all accessible, and it's all accessible via self-hypnosis. So if we can completely relax the mind, switch off the conscious mind, so move that tip of the iceberg out of the way or take the lid off, and then we can get down into the bits that we want to get down. Now, the important thing is we can only ever access bits of that subconscious mind that we want to. No one can ever make you access bits of it that you don't want to. Now, the reason that it's relevant for us is that all of that stuff about birth is down there in the subconscious mind. And the way that the brain works is when you encounter a new experience or something that you don't do very often, it goes, right, what do I need to tell this person? How can I prepare the body for this event that's going to happen? What do I know about this? And it will go and rummage through the files, if you like, in the subconscious mind. So it will rummage through the files in that subconscious mind and go, right, birth, have that, here you go. Here's everything that you've ever known about birth. And it'll put it in your conscious mind. and then you go, oh my God, yeah, birth. What do I know about birth? It's terrifying, it hurts, it's awful. I associate screaming and agony and blah, 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 and all of this stuff. Now, that leaves you feeling tense, frightened, anxious. And what happens when you feel stressed, frightened, anxious? What happens to you physically? You tense up, right? All your muscles tense. And that is because your body wants to protect you when you feel like that. It notices a perceived threat. So it gives you a shot of adrenaline. It gives you that fight, flight, or freeze mechanism to protect you. Now, if you're entering into labour and birth, and you are feeling stressed, frightened, anxious, any of those things, to whatever degree, your body wants to protect you, your brain, wants to protect you. And what it will do is it will give you that release of adrenaline. And what happens when you go to fight, flight, or freeze is your body wants to prepare you to be able to run out of danger. And so it will send all of its adrenaline to your limbs to help you run. And it will send all the oxygenated blood to your limbs and to your essential organs, your vital organs that keep you alive. So your brain, your heart, and your lungs are what's keeping you alive. So they get all the oxygenated blood. I'm sorry to say, your uterus and your baby aren't considered essential organs that are keeping you alive. So they instantly get less oxygenated blood. Now, if you're in labour, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen is that those lovely surges that I described, that lovely muscle movement that's happening in your uterus, those muscles are going to get constricted as the catecholamines and adrenaline shoot through them. Your muscles get constricted so that you can run away. It happens everywhere. So your uterine muscles get constricted. So this lovely movement that was happening gets halted and constricted. So that's actually really uncomfortable. And the baby is still trying to nudge its way down, and it's getting nudged down into this hardened now cervix, and it's getting squished against these hard muscles. So the baby doesn't like that very much. The baby's getting less oxygen, it's getting squished and squashed. You're in quite a lot of discomfort now because this hurts now, and that's frightening. So that exacerbates the situation, and that makes you release even more adrenaline, so it hurts even more. And it is this cycle. You feel frightened, so your muscles tense, and that hurts. You feel frightened even more, and so it goes on. Now, I walk in, and as say I'm a midwife, I walk in and I look at this clinical picture before me. I see this lady in labour. I see a labour that's slowed down. I see a lady who's in a lot of pain, and I see a baby who's in potential distress. So I go, right, okay, we need to fix this situation. What I need to do is I need to give you some pain relief for a start. So let's give you an epidural because you're not tolerating labour. Your labour has really slowed down, so we need to give you some drugs. We need to give you possibly some Syntocinon on to get things going again. And that goes through a drip in your hands. You need to be cannulated, and because you've had an epidural, you probably, not always, but you probably need to have a catheter as well. Now your baby's in distress, so you need to be closely monitored. And so we'll try and get you to fully dilated, but you've got quite a strong epidural on board now, and your surges aren't really building muster. So we'll try and get you to fully dilated, but if we can't, then I'm afraid it's down the doors for an emergency cesarean. If we can get you to fully dilated, the chances are statistically that you might not be able to achieve a normal birth now because you've had your epidural, but we'll see what we can do. So now I have put the fear of God into you, but that is not how it's going to be for you. And let me tell you in this next bit why. So why isn't that going to happen to you? Now the reason is you're going to sign up for the rest of the course, and in the next 3 modules, what you're going to do, firstly, you're going to access that subconscious mind and undo all of that negative stuff around birth. And the way that you achieve that is by using self-hypnosis. That all sounds a bit woo and a bit hippie, but it's really not. All it is listening to some really lovely relaxation tracks. If you listen to these relaxation tracks every day, what happens is you gradually start to undo all of that negative stuff. And the added bonus of this is that whilst that's happening, you're also learning, and it is a process, how to achieve a very relaxed state. And as time goes on, the more you listen to these tracks, you'll find that you'll relax a little bit more every time, and you'll relax a little bit more quickly every time, until that ultimately, by the end of the time that you have to practice, you'll just hear the first few bars of the music and you'll feel completely calm and relaxed, if not asleep. Now, the reason that this is beneficial is that when you go into labor, you will have the ability to go and just feel completely calm and relaxed, thus avoiding that fear, tension, pain cycle that we talked about. You will learn the breathing techniques that will help you get there as well, and that will help you birth out the baby. You will learn more about exactly what is happening during labour and birth. We've touched on the basics, and we'll talk about the whole way through so that you feel educated and in control of the process. And all of my midwife hints and tips and practical ways for you to birth easily and smoothly. Now, all you've got to do is sign up for the rest of the course, click on the links, and it's just £49. You have lifelong access to all of the relaxation tracks and the positive affirmation CD, and you are on your way to an amazing birth.